Hello, everyone. Tonight we are standing in the hush just before a sound that shouldn't happen. You are here bare feet on a path that has not been walked in years, surrounded by stones that remember more footsteps than they show. It's late, always late, and the wind does that thing. It does when it forgets what direction it's supposed to belong to. You came for silence, maybe even peace, but you've already stepped wrong. You probably won't survive. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You arrive at the grave alone. No, that's not the strange part. The strange part is that someone has raked the leaves off it. Just this one. All the others are furred over in golden rot and the soft collapse of the season's throat. But not this one. Its stone, a low, heavy oval, glows with a wet sort of awareness as if it never stopped being watched. The name has long since worn off. Just an impression remains. The dead trying to remember what they were called. The grave is unbroken. You check, you count the cracks. There are none. But the bones below, according to the village's oldest superstition, are not where they were last night. Every year, just before the equinox tips into shadow, the village posts a tiny paper sign beside the grave. Do not lean against the stone. It remembers who you are. That's the only warning. There's no fence, no guard. Just the note and the way dogs walk in circles when they pass it. They don't bark. They don't sniff. They just make one loop, shake their ears, and move on as if they've forgotten what they were doing. Maybe you should too. But curiosity isn't kind, especially yours. You bring the folding chair. You bring the candle, even though you say it's for atmosphere. You say that aloud, though no one asked. And when you sit, the earth feels stiffer than it should. Not firm like stone, more like pressed fabric. Something stitched tight, too tight. They say bones don't shift without disturbance, that the grave must be broken for the body to rise. But last autumn, one of the grave diggers dropped a spoon down into the soil. Don't ask why a spoon. It was his story, and when he returned in the morning, it was bent into the shape of a wishbone. Placed gently atop the grave. No prints, no cracks, just a spoon that now didn't match any set in the kitchen. Someone joked that it was an ancient form of flatware etiquette. Bone-setting hospitality, they called it. No one laughed, but the phrase stayed. Now, as your candle flickers in the wind's second-guessing, you feel it a tug from below. Not a vibration, not a shake, just a subtle invitation. Like the grave is adjusting its posture. Like a sleeper turning under covers made of soil and time. An archaeologist once claimed the bones belonged to a dancer. A real one, not a myth. The kind who used to perform during eclipses and burial pits across early Neolithic Europe. Some of those pits, true fact, were lined with stones that pulsed when wet, thanks to the resonance of quartz. A forgotten ritual of rhythm, bloodless and soundless, like thunder trapped in sleep. But some researchers still argue whether the pits were for performance at all. Maybe they were storage, maybe celebration, or maybe they were rehearsal spaces for the dead. The bones in this grave, if you believe the records, few do once rearranged into a perfect seated position, without anyone opening the earth. The old caretaker said it looked like she was waiting, elbows on knees, skull tilted slightly to the left. He quit the next morning and took up underwater welding. The bones don't breathe there, he said. Tonight the wind rolls like someone whispering through cupped hands. The candle gutters out, and behind you you hear the crunch of leaves, just once, and not again, which is worse. You don't turn around. Smart. Instead, you lean forward. You speak to the earth. Something foolish, something brave. If you need help moving again, I brought music. You don't know why you say it. Maybe you heard someone else say it once. Maybe you didn't say it at all. But when your phone buzzes with a notification, no network, no service, no exit, you realize the grave has a better signal than you. Still you sit. Still the earth breathes almost, but only in the way that a hell breath hums in a throat. You notice the faint scrape of bone on stone, then silence again, as if something just rolled over politely to face the other way. The candle flares back to life. No match, no wind, just a pulse, a breathless one. And now you realize the stone isn't for marking the grave. It's a weight, a gentle one, like a hand on a shoulder, or a promise. You try to stand, but your legs are too asleep, or too polite, or too something, and the chair is just a little heavier than it was. One of the bones perhaps has climbed into your lap, just to rest, just to test how soft the world has become. You say you'll come back tomorrow. The grave doesn't answer, but the candle nods once. That's all the permission you'll get. You return at dusk. Of course you do. You tell yourself it's for research, for closure, for narrative symmetry. But there's no camera in your bag this time, no field notebook, just a thermos of tea that will go cold and a fresh candle you swear you didn't buy. You found it on the windowsill this morning, still warm, as if someone had just blown it out. Maybe you. The grave is just as you left it, still unbroken, still slightly smug. The stone holds no moss. Even in this humid stretch of late season where lichen rushes to claim every shaded thing, the marker is bare, like it's been scrubbed, or like it refuses to be claimed by time. You sit, but not in the chair. You sit on the ground this time, knees bent, spine curved, mirroring a posture you read about once in a journal on Mesolithic burial customs. In a cave in Spain, a woman was found folded forward, hands under her cheek like a child pretending to sleep. The article said she was buried that way on purpose, or perhaps she placed herself. Some researchers still argue whether the grave was originally hers at all, or if she wandered in, slowly, quietly, and chose it. You wonder what it means to choose a grave from the inside. Tonight the leaves are restless. They don't scatter or fall. They stay in place and tremble like teeth under a thin blanket. It's a detail no one else will notice, but you do. You always do. The dirt smells like water before it knows it's rain. You breathe it in. You don't realize that means the grave breathes you too. You try to speak again, but your voice catches on something, some root of doubt maybe, or a wishbone still caught in the throat of the earth. Instead, you hum. Just a note. Not quite a song. Not yet. Something half-remembered from childhood. A lullaby with no words, only the shape of comfort. You imagine the bones below know the tune. There's a sound beneath your feet. A tiny shift, like someone clearing their throat politely in another room. You don't move. Tonight the joke writes itself. You're not afraid of the dead rising. You're afraid they'll ask for help unpacking. The candle lights without touch. Just a soft cough of flame like it remembered it used to be fire. In the glow you see a shallow ridge in the dirt you didn't notice yesterday. A curve. A suggestion. Not a break. Just a realignment, like a shoulder blade was tugged slightly to the side to ease pressure, like the bones aren't trying to escape, just stretch. You remember a local tale the librarian told you when you asked about the grave last week? She laughed, but not happily, said her grandmother warned that sometimes bones move because they aren't finished. Not angry, not vengeful, just persistent, like a page left dog-eared for too long. You asked finished with what? The librarian didn't answer. She only rubbed her own shoulder as if it ached. Now, as night lingers heavier, you begin to feel the ache too. Right where your own bones would fold inward, your joints hum with old music. You don't stand. You can't. The ground feels warmer than it should, like something is leaning up against it from underneath. You press your palm to the dirt, and the dirt presses back. It's not threatening, it's affectionate, which is worse. In the stillness, you notice something odd. The bugs are silent. No clicks, no chirps, no night song, just the hush of watching. The kind of hush that implies teeth. Above you, the trees sway like nervous elders whispering gossip. A wind stirs, but only the branches, not the grass. a directional disagreement in the ecosystem. Very prehistoric of them. That's joke too. Keep laughing. It helps. In the village, they say the grave belongs to someone who never broke a bone in life. Never once. Not from fall or fight or illness. The bones made a pact with gravity someone told you over coffee and stormlight. That's why she's restless now. Still unbroken, still unfinished, still trying to decide which pose feels right. You wonder aloud to no one, what if this is performance art? The candle flares. Just once. You laugh, but softly. You don't want to interrupt whatever rehearsal is happening underneath you. Then from the edge of the woods, a rustle. Something watching. Again. You look but not directly, just enough to show you noticed. It's only polite. They say in older burial customs that graves were sometimes placed beneath threshold stones, not to mark territory, but to remind the living where to lower their heads. You feel that instinct now. You bow slightly, just enough. And from the dirt just near your foot, a tiny shift, a hint of motion, a small flat stone rolls onto your shoe. Smooth, warm, etched with lines you don't recognize. It's not a threat. It's punctuation. The grave is answering, slowly, carefully, without ever needing to break the surface. You sit with it. As one does when an old friend begins a story you already know but need to hear again anyway. You return on the third night as if you never left. Maybe you didn't. The door to your house had opened more easily than usual this morning, as if the air inside had already been disturbed by someone or something that didn't need the latch. The boots you wore yesterday were still muddy, but not in the same pattern. And your left sock had been turned inside out, but you hadn't taken it off. You decide not to think about it too hard, which is how most long hauntings begin. The grave is unchanged and yet unmistakably different. The stone, for one, now leans a single breath to the left. Not fallen, never fallen, but adjusted. Subtly. Like someone trying to hear a little better. Or listen in a dream. You don't bring tea this time, or food, or any form of offering. You feel like that might be rude. The earth, after all, hasn't asked anything of you. It simply remembers that you're here. You sit cross-legged, feeling the subtle slope of the ground. It curves inward now, almost imperceptibly, like something below is drawing itself closer to the surface, but gently, as if not to wake the worms. Tonight's real ancient fact is one you whisper aloud, because it seems fitting. In the Chauvet cave system in France, there are 36,000-year-old footprints of a child walking beside a wolf. The prints overlap and meander back and forth. Some scholars believe they were made during a torch-lit visit underground. Others say it's more complicated, that maybe it wasn't a wolf, maybe it wasn't a child, maybe it wasn't walking. You say the word walking aloud, and feel the soil shift ever so slightly beneath your thigh. You think you hear a sigh, but it's your own breath coming back from the trees. You think, the candle does not light tonight. Instead, the moon has risen into a patient milk-eyed glow. The kind of moon that has seen every kind of burial and doesn't need to be impressed. You feel visible. The trees keep their gossip quiet tonight, but there's a new sound. Faint, rhythmic, like knuckles tapping on wood from the wrong side of a wall. You try to count it. You try not to count it. Both attempts fail. You glance at the stone, still leaning. You say softly, you can lie down if you want. You're not sure if you mean the bones or yourself. That's joke one. Though it doesn't land with a laugh. Just the settling sound of a leaf deciding not to fall. Somewhere in the village an owl calls, but it's wrong. Not the call of a bird. The call of a question someone forgot to answer. You feel the silence grow again. Thick, like breath under blankets. And then movement. Not from the grave. Not from the forest. From you. Your spine tilts slightly forward without your consent. Your shoulders curve inward, hands resting lightly on your knees. A mirrored pose. The one from the old caretaker's tale. Seated, waiting. The ache in your joints is gone. You feel arranged. There is a calm in your chest like water poured into the right vessel. No splashing, no bubbles, just arrival. You want to hum again, but the sound is already there. Below. Not a song, but the memory of one. Like an instrument warming up in an adjacent century. You reach down and press your fingers to the earth. 3 times. Not because you mean to, but because that's how many times the bones pressed up last night. You're answering now. You find something small, smooth. Your fingertips close around it. A tooth, not human, not sharp, flat, fossilized. The kind of fossil you find in limestone bedding from ancient riverbeds where bones of extinct deer-like creatures sometimes lie curled together untouched by scavengers. Their limbs folded not in pain but rest. Some researchers argue those deaths were voluntary, that the herds gathered year after year at the same sheltered bend and simply laid down, like the land asked for a story to end there. And they agreed. You hold the fossil, it is warm from the soil. Or from something else. Second joke. You wonder if this is the prehistoric version of a friendship bracelet. The dirt shifts again, this time closer. A lump rises in the soil, not breaking through, just visible, like the earth trying to form a word. You do not speak, you listen. The candle, untouched suddenly, tips over and rolls towards your foot. It stops, stands up, upright, balanced. You stare. It wobbles slightly, then steadies. You say, okay, just that, nothing more. The wind doesn't return. The trees don't move, but the grave does. Not violently, just a little exhale. A minor settling, the kind a body makes when it finally finds a comfortable position in bed. You whisper a third joke, the last for tonight. I think she's trying to get comfortable before the next stream, and the ground in its own way agrees. You wake before you open your eyes. That's how it feels, like your body remembered where it was before your mind did. You're already dressed, already walking, already holding the fossil tooth. You don't remember packing it, you don't remember falling asleep, but you're halfway to the grave before you realize you haven't blinked since the porch. Tonight the path is clearer. No leaves on the trail, no twigs to snap beneath your boots. Even the air seems pre-walked, like someone brushed it aside for you in advance. Or perhaps you've been walking this same loop for longer than you admit. Either way, your footsteps make no sound, which is polite considering what you're approaching. The grave is not where it was. It hasn't moved, that's the wrong word. But it's changed its context. The trees have stepped back a few paces. The stone leans a little more forward now, as if listening intently. The earth around the mound is smoother almost, padded. Like something has been pressing upward all day, something with careful hands. You pause before sitting, a gesture of respect. It feels earned. The fossil tooth in your palm is still warm. You sit without a candle. You don't bring one tonight. You understand now that the light is not yours to provide. Instead, the grave begins without you. It hums, not loudly, not musically, but rhythmically, like the throb of a drum held in the ribs, like old marrow remembering how to make requests. You hear 3 soft clicks beneath the earth. Then silence, then 2 more, then stillness again. You whisper 5. It feels correct. Somewhere behind you, a breeze tries to happen but fails. The air folds inward, listening. You run your fingers over the smooth dirt, tracing a loose spiral. Not on purpose. It's just what your hand decides. And as you do, the spiral in the soil deepens. Accepts the motion, completes the shape. It is not a symbol, it is an agreement. Tonight's real ancient fact arrives in a memory you didn't make. In a Neolithic site in Çatalhöyük, Turkey, researchers discovered that the dead were often buried beneath the floors of houses, under sleeping mats, under fire pits, whole families living above their ancestors. Some homes had as many as 60 individuals beneath the floorboards. Some scholars say it was symbolic protection. Others argue it was spatial necessity. A few suggest the bones weren't entirely still. You try to remember whether your house was quiet last night, whether the boards creaked at strange hours, whether the door opened too easily. Some researchers argue the floors weren't for walking, that they were for listening. That's tonight's doubt. It feels close to home. You place the fossil tooth beside the grave. It rolls slightly, nestling itself in a dip you didn't notice before. The soil receives it, and where it settles, a faint warmth rises. Not heat, just memories. From beneath you comes a new sound. It's not tapping, it's not shifting. It's laughter, dry and hollow and long asleep. Not cruel, not amused, just familiar. A laugh that might once have followed a story with no ending. You smile carefully, the way one does when a child tries to tell you the moon's real name. Not because it's nonsense, but because it might be too true. You murmur, "You're almost there, aren't you?" The ground tightens slightly beneath your knees. Not a warning, a nod. You think of the caretaker again, the one who saw her seated, elbows on knees, head tilted, a dancer without an audience. Or maybe a teacher without a student. You wonder absently if you've been the student this whole time. If your listening has completed some unfinished lesson. Third joke tonight. You wonder if this is what happens when you major in archaeology but minor in haunting. Something shifts in the trees. Not a branch, not a bird, a space. A space between trunks widens without anything actually moving. Just the suggestion of an opening. A door where there wasn't one. The grave exhales. You feel it in your ribs. You place your hands flat on the soil. You press gently, as if tucking it in. The hum beneath your skin stills. Not gone. Just resting. In the village, the librarian leaves out 2 cups of tea before locking the library. She doesn't know why. She just does it every year on this night. The cups are always empty in the morning, the saucers clean. One time a fossil was left behind on the counter. A vertebra, too small to identify. Too smooth to place. Some say it belonged to the dancer. Others say it was left as thanks. You rise slowly, legs numb. Soul not quite yours. The grave does not respond. It doesn't need to. Not anymore. The moon tips its light forward like a bowed head. The trees pull their shadows close like coats, and you begin your walk back. The path is covered in leaves again, which means something underneath is finally still. You don't intend to return. That's how the 5th night begins, with resolve. With tea steeped a little too strong. With a plan to sleep early and wake with no dirt under your nails. You light no candles. You close your windows. You tell yourself you've done enough. But by nightfall, you are already walking. It's not compulsion, not fear, just rhythm. As if your footsteps were preset, carved into the evening, like the grooves in an ancient bone flute. You walk without a coat, though the wind has teeth now, and every tooth hums. When you reach the grave, you do not hesitate, because now it is not a grave. Not truly. The stone still sits, but it no longer leans. It has settled into a perfect vertical stillness. The kind of stillness not found in stone, but in posture. It looks like something standing up very slowly and choosing not to finish. The earth is smooth as glass. Even the worms, it seems, have been asked to pause. You sit cross-legged again. But not to mirror, not to offer, to witness. You whisper a greeting, though not in any language you know. It arrives from your throat unbidden, soft and vowel-heavy. A shape made from breath and memory. The grave answers with silence. A deep-weighted silence. Not empty, just waiting. Tonight's ancient fact is the oldest of all. There is no known burial site on Earth older than 78,000 years. But in Kenya, in a cave called Panga ya Saidi, archaeologists found a body curled tightly in the fetal position. A child wrapped in its own arms, carefully placed. The grave was shallow, the bones fragile. They named the child Mtoto. It means child in Swahili. But the bones were not broken. They were not marked by time. They simply moved over tens of thousands of years closer into themselves. Some scholars still argue whether Mtoto died alone, or whether something sat with him until the very end. You do not speak this aloud. You think the grave already knows. A breeze brushes your shoulder, but only one. As if someone passed behind you on their way elsewhere. You look to the side. There's a footprint. Your own. From last night. Inside it, a new mark. Small, bony, almost delicate. 4 long toes, 1 too short. You reach for the fossil tooth in your pocket, but it's not there, because it was never yours to keep. The grave is quiet, but you notice something you hadn't before: the shape of the ground around it. A shallow curve. The outline of a limb perhaps, a hip, a gesture. The bones have finished moving, not risen, not escaped, just realigned, as if they had somewhere they needed to be even in death. You whisper, "Did you get there?" No answer, but then you feel your own spine relax, as if the question wasn't for her, as if it was for you. Final joke. Maybe you weren't visiting a grave at all. Maybe you were auditioning for one. You lie back, just for a moment. The earth holds you not tightly, not hungrily, just the way a page holds ink, willingly. You feel the hum again, but this time it's not below. It's inside your ribs. A rhythm, a knowing. Then nothing. Not sleep, not wakefulness. Just the in-between where bones turn gently in the dark and finish what they started. And so you leave or stay or become the listening itself. No candle remains lit, but the grave glows a little warmer. A silence that isn't absence but arrangement. A dancer's bones folded for the final time, not in death, but in readiness. She was never escaping. She was waiting to land. The footsteps you left will vanish by morning. The stone will shift again, but only if the wind forgets. And the forest will hum softly, slowly, as if reciting your name backward through the leaves. You probably won't survive, but you'll remember how stillness moves, and how the ground never forgets who listens well.